The Reverend Sharon Delgado is an ordained United Methodist minister. She's also the executive director of Earth Justice Ministries. She has been advocating for peace, justice, and the environment for over 35 years. This evening, she will speak about her book, Shaking the Gates of Hell, Faith-Led Resistance to Corporate Globalization. Please help me welcome Sharon Delgado.
Good evening. I'm going to begin by reading from the very beginning of my book. We are living at a time when humanity and the earth itself face unprecedented danger. In this pivotal time, the world desperately needs people who are willing to speak and act clearly with power and integrity to move us in the direction of hope. Friends, my book, Shaking the Gates of Hell, Faith-Led Resistance to Corporate Globalization, is a call to action. It's also a call to spiritual renewal. The book is about globalization. Actually, 3 kinds of globalization. First, the globalization of harm. Our species is facing some profound dangers. We are on an unsustainable path. There are global threats to our well-being and to our future. So I'm talking about the globalization of harm. 2, what I call corporate globalization. It's a top-down form of globalization. It's what we talk about when we hear economic globalization. It's globalization of the dominant institutions of our day. 3, globalization from below. A people's globalization. People working together to build a better world. This book is about spiritual empowerment for social transformation. Its purpose is to inspire hope and to motivate action for a peaceful, just, and sustainable world. Part 1 is called The Gates of Hell, Undoing Creation. I make the case that we face a living hell on earth if we don't turn things around. The book itself is actually born out of the vision of a transformed world. Why? Because our world needs transformation. We are on a path toward destruction, of climate change that has just gotten started, of globalized pollution, of the loss of biodiversity, of the contamination of our food supply with genetically modified products, with growing inequity and poverty, which inevitably leads to increasing levels of violence. We face terror of various kinds, and endless war. That's the path we're on. The gates of hell, undoing creation. And undoing creation, that indicates my understanding that we are going in the opposite direction of the direction intended for us by the love that brought the universe into being and brought this earth into being with all its diversity. Now, why are we going in such a destructive direction? It's not just natural, it's not forces of nature, it's not social evolution. We're moving in that direction because of actual concrete policy decisions, economic decisions, political decisions by people at the top of the institutions that govern our world today. And my premise is that many of those institutions are dominated by large for-profit corporations. Look at the government of the United States and at this last election and the corporate money that was involved there and the lobbyists. Corporations dominate not just this government, but many governments and economic institutions and many global institutions such as the IMF, World Bank, and World Trade Organization. Corporate globalization is a top-down globalization that we just take for granted. We're like fish in water unless we wake up to what is going on and why. So this book includes an overview of the global economy, and it outlines the global threats that are facing us as a species. Part 3 is called Faith-Led Resistance. We, human beings, are the only ones who can turn this around. And it's going to take not just hard work in the outer world, it's going to take inner work. It's going to take learning, and it's going to take going deep within our own faith traditions, our own sources of strength, our own sources of inspiration, to find the power that we need and the clarity that we need to take the action that will bring change to this world, that will help us join hands with others who are moving already into a new paradigm. There is a new world being born, even in the midst of destruction. I wouldn't have written this book if I didn't have hope. As I say, I wrote this book out of the vision of a transformed world. Right now, there are people in Nevada County working on local sustainable economy, local food systems, who are working to help feed the homeless and the hungry. And there are people joining hands regionally and across national borders, people joining hands all over the world, supporting each other in order to help build a world that is peaceful, that is just, and sustainable. New values are emerging. Values like nonviolence, sustainability, equity, the precautionary principle, do no harm, peace. These are values that are emerging globally. It's a people's globalization that is taking place. As Kofi Annan said, global civil society has become the world's other superpower. I haven't had the time with this short presentation to tell you any stories. There are a lot of stories in this book. It starts with me in jail in Seattle during the meetings of the World Trade Organization there in 1999, after having non-violently helped to shut down the first day's meetings of the World Trade Organization, which, as I argue in this book, is one of the most powerful and dangerous organizations the world has ever seen. And since that time, it has never gotten back on track. It doesn't come up to the present time when, a month ago, I was arrested at Beale for trespassing onto the base to protest their drone program. But it tells why I would take such actions. And it's out of hope. This book is about globalization, globalization of harm, corporate globalization, and globalization from below. It's a call to action. It's a call to spiritual renewal. It's about spiritual empowerment and clarity for social transformation. Hope that another world is possible.